The summer sun was high when Amir first stepped onto the rough path that led to the forgotten lake. He had bought the land only a week ago from an old farmer who had moved away. The farmer said the lake had once been beautiful, a place where families came for fishing and picnics, but over the years it had been abandoned. Trees grew wild around the banks, weeds covered the water, and broken fences leaned toward the ground. Amir saw something special in it. He loved quiet places, and he dreamed of bringing the lake back to life. He imagined clear water, birds flying above, children laughing while they skipped stones, and small boats floating across the calm surface. To him, it was more than just land. It was a chance to create something meaningful, a place that could bring peace and joy. The first days were not easy. Amir worked from morning till evening. He cut down thick weeds, pulled out trash, and repaired the old wooden pier. His hands grew rough, his back ached, but his heart felt light. Every little change gave him hope. Soon he hired a few workers from a nearby village to help. They drained parts of the water to clean it, laid stones along the banks, and planted grass. The lake began to shine again. The water turned clearer each day, and even the fish seemed to return as if they knew the place was alive once more. When people from the village passed by, they stopped to look. Many praised Amir for his effort. "We thought this lake was lost forever," said an old man named Rafiq. "You have given it a second life." But not everyone felt happy. On the other side of the hill, there was a new housing development run by an HOA. The residents liked to control everything near their homes. They had rules about fences, gardens, even the color of walls. They often acted as if the land around them belonged only to them. The lake was not part of their maps, but it was close enough that some of them wanted it. At first, Amir did not notice their interest. He stayed busy restoring the pier and planting trees. But one morning as he worked near the shore, 3 men in clean shirts and polished shoes came walking down the path. They looked around with narrow eyes. "Are you the owner here?" asked one of them, who wore dark glasses. "Yes, I am," Amir replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "This lake is under our community's care," the man said firmly. "You should leave. We will handle it." Amir was surprised. "No, I bought this land legally. I have the papers. The lake belongs to me now." The men exchanged quick glances. One of them gave a thin smile. "We will see about that." Without another word, they turned and left. That night, Amir could not sleep well. He thought about their words. Why would they claim the lake when they had no right? He decided not to worry. The papers were clear. Still, a small unease grew inside him. The next week, his fears became true. He was working on planting water lilies when 2 men in black uniforms arrived. They had badges pinned to their shirts and carried radios. One of them shouted, "Step away from the water. You are trespassing." Amir froze. The men looked like police, but something about them felt wrong. Their uniforms seemed cheap, their boots did not match, and their badges had no proper marks. Amir stepped forward bravely. "This is my land," he said. "Who are you?" "We are officers," one replied quickly. "This lake belongs to the community association. You have no right here." Amir narrowed his eyes. "If you are real police, show me your identification." The men grew tense. They muttered something about returning later and walked away in a hurry. Amir's heart pounded, but he stood tall. He knew then that the HOA had sent fake cops to scare him. That evening, Amir sat on the pier and watched the sunset. The water reflected golden light, and the sound of crickets filled the air. For a moment he felt peace again, but he also knew trouble was coming. The HOA wanted the lake, and they were ready to play dirty games to get it. The villagers supported Amir. Some came to sit with him at night, keeping watch in case strangers tried to disturb the place. Old Rafiq said, "They may try to scare you, but truth is on your side. You must stay strong." Amir thanked them. He felt stronger knowing he was not alone. Still, the fight was only beginning. He could sense the storm that was about to rise. The HOA was not finished. In their meetings, they talked about the lake as if it already belonged to them. They said they wanted to build a clubhouse by the shore, maybe even sell boat rentals. To them, Amir was an obstacle standing in the way of profit. One afternoon, Amir noticed a sign near the entrance path. It had been nailed to a tree. It read, "Private community property. No entry." Amir pulled it down at once. He knew who had put it there. It was another move to confuse visitors and make him look like the trespasser. He started keeping a folder of every paper related to the land. The deed, the receipts, the signed contracts, all safe. He also began taking photographs of his work, the workers he hired, and the progress of the restoration. He wanted proof for every step. The lake grew more beautiful with each passing day. The lilies opened, the grass turned green, and children from the village laughed as they played by the shore. The place was alive again. But in the shadows, the HOA planned their next strike. Amir did not know exactly what they would do, but he was sure of one thing. He would not give up the lake. He had given it his sweat, his time, and his dreams. It was his land, and he would defend it with truth and courage. The fight for the lake had only just begun, and Amir stood ready for whatever came next. The next few days were calm on the surface, but Amir felt an uneasy silence in the air. He kept working around the lake, painting the pier and planting small flowering bushes along the path. Yet his mind stayed alert. Every sound of footsteps made him turn his head. Every car that slowed near the entrance made his chest tighten. He knew the HOA would not stop after one failed attempt. One evening, as the sky turned orange, Amir saw a group of men standing at the far edge of the lake. They were not villagers. Their polished shoes, clipped hair, and folded arms gave away who they were. They were residents from the housing community. Amir walked toward them, calm but firm. "Good evening," Amir said politely. One of them, a tall man with a sharp nose, replied coldly, "We came to see our lake." "Your lake?" Amir repeated, raising his eyebrows. "I think you are mistaken. This land belongs to me. I bought it legally. The papers are clear." The tall man crossed his arms. "We do not care about your papers. Everyone knows this lake has always been part of our community. You cannot just come and take it." Amir's voice stayed steady. "The farmer who owned this land sold it to me. The government office approved the transfer. I have the deed. If you want to see the papers, I can show them." The men muttered among themselves but refused to look at the documents. Instead, they pointed toward the water. "We have plans here. Our families want a clubhouse. We want boat rides, picnics, and parties." "You are standing in the way of progress," Amir shook his head. "Progress is not built on lies. If you want such things, you should build them on land that belongs to you. This lake is mine, and I will protect it." The men left with frowns on their faces, whispering to each other as they walked away. Amir knew this was only the beginning of a longer battle. The very next morning, Amir woke to the sound of hammers. He hurried outside and saw a group of workers putting up a wooden fence near the entrance path. A signboard hung from the frame that read, "Community Property. Managed by HOA." Amir rushed toward them. "Stop this at once. Who told you to build here?" One of the workers, a young man in a blue cap, looked nervous. "The association hired us. They said this land is theirs. We are only doing our job." "This land is not theirs," Amir said firmly. "Show me the order paper." The worker shook his head. "We were only told to put up this fence." Amir pulled out his phone and began taking pictures. He photographed the workers, the half-built fence, and the signboard. He spoke loudly so that everyone could hear. "This is my land. I am the legal owner. Anyone building here without my permission is trespassing. Leave now." The workers exchanged uneasy looks. They did not want trouble. Slowly they packed their tools and left, leaving the half-done fence standing crooked. Amir pulled it down piece by piece until the path was clear again. By evening, the story had spread in the village. People gathered near the pier, shaking their heads at the HOA's behavior. Old Rafik spoke with sadness. "They think they can scare you by acting powerful. But you are not alone. We will stand with you." Amir felt grateful, but he also realized he needed stronger protection. He visited the land office in town and asked for certified copies of his documents. The officer handed him stamped papers with clear seals. Amir placed them in his folder. He also decided to keep digital copies on his phone. Days passed, but the tension did not ease. One afternoon, a shiny car stopped near the lake. A woman stepped out, dressed in a neat suit. She carried a clipboard and introduced herself as the president of the HOA. "You must be Amir," she said with a fixed smile. "I am here to settle this matter. The lake is part of our association. You cannot claim it." Amir stood tall. "With respect, madam, I am the owner. I bought this land legally. If you want to challenge it, go to the court. But do not send fake police, do not put false signs, and do not build fences on my property." The woman's smile faded. "If you refuse to cooperate, we will take action." "You will regret making this difficult," Amir replied calmly. "I only regret that instead of welcoming the restoration, You are trying to steal what does not belong to you." The woman got back into her car and drove away without another word. That night, Amir sat by the lake under the moonlight. The water glowed silver, and the air was filled with the smell of fresh grass. Yet Amir's heart was heavy. He had no wish for conflict, but it was clear the HOA would not give up. The villagers encouraged him. Some even offered to guard the lake in shifts. Amir thanked them but told them not to risk trouble. He wanted to handle it legally with truth on his side. One morning, Amir discovered another trick. A letter had been slipped under his door. It was printed on paper with a false-looking seal claiming he owed lake maintenance fees to the HOA. The letter threatened to fine him if he did not pay. Amir laughed bitterly. First fake police, then fake fences, now fake bills. They will try everything. He placed the letter into his folder of evidence. Later that week, two strangers appeared again in cheap uniforms. They shouted about closing the lake, saying it was unsafe. Amir faced them with the papers in his hand. "If you are real officers, show me your ID cards. If not, leave before I call the real police." The men left quickly, just as before. Amir wrote down the date and time, adding it to his growing record of every incident. Through all of this, the lake itself grew more and more beautiful. Birds nested in the trees. The lilies spread wide, and the sound of children's laughter often filled the air. It was as if nature itself supported Amir, rewarding him for his hard work. Still, the shadow of conflict hung heavy. Amir knew the HOA would try harder next time. He prepared himself for a larger fight. His faith in truth gave him strength, but he also began to think about bringing the real law into the matter before it grew worse. As he stood on the pier watching the sunset, Amir whispered to himself, "This lake has come back to life, and I will not let anyone steal it again. If they want to fight, I will meet them with truth, with proof, and with courage." The war over the lake had only deepened, and the real storm had not yet begun. Days turned into weeks, and Amir's life at the lake became a delicate balance of work and watchfulness. Each morning he arrived at the pier with a list of tasks, and each evening he reviewed the evidence of the HOA's interference. He took photographs of every nail, every sign, and every stranger who approached. He also documented his restoration work, making sure the lake's transformation was undeniable. One morning, Amir found a small group of men near the western bank. They were measuring the land with tape and small flags. Amir raised his voice, calling out to them. "This is private property, leave at once," he shouted. The men looked startled but continued their measurements. Amir walked closer, holding the deed in his hand. "Do you want to be arrested for trespassing? I have the legal papers here. You are standing on my land." One of the men hesitated. "We were sent by the community," he said nervously. Amir shook his head. "Your community sent you to break the law. You have no right here. Leave now, or I will call the authorities." Finally, the men dropped their equipment and ran off. Amir sighed with relief but felt a new urgency. The HOA was clearly planning something bigger. That evening, Amir gathered the villagers. "They will not stop," he said. "They want this lake. We need to be prepared, but we must stay calm and legal. No fighting, no threats, just truth and proof." The villagers agreed. Old Rafiq, always wise and patient, suggested, "We should document everything together. Photos, videos, dates. We will make it impossible for them to deny your ownership." Amir nodded. They formed a small schedule. Each day someone would visit the lake, check for signs of tampering, and report back. Children played freely while the adults quietly guarded the property. Then one day, a letter arrived by courier. It was more official looking than before. It claimed the HOA had filed a claim of ownership at the local courthouse. Amir read it carefully. The claim was vague, filled with legal-sounding words, but it was clear they wanted to make him appear as a trespasser. Amir knew he had to respond quickly. He visited the courthouse and asked the clerk for a copy of the HOA's filing. The clerk handed him the papers, and Amir read each line carefully. Many statements were false, including claims that the lake had been part of the HOA since the land was first developed. Amir noted every error. He returned home with a plan. "I will hire a lawyer," he told the villagers, "but more importantly, I will gather proof of my work here. Every tree planted, every stone placed, Every repair made will show this lake is mine and has been restored by me." The lawyer, a kind woman named Nadia, agreed immediately. "They are using intimidation," she said, "but we have the documents and photographs. We will respond in court and show the truth. Do not worry. This lake belongs to you." Amir felt hope. Finally, the battle could move beyond threats and fake officers. The truth would be heard. The next week, the HOA tried a new tactic. A letter arrived at the village school claiming that children should not play near the lake because it was dangerous property. Amir read it aloud to the villagers. "This is a lie," he said. "The lake is safe. I maintain it carefully. They only want to scare everyone away." Despite the threats, families continued to visit. They admired the clean water, the grass along the banks, and the little pier that Amir had repaired. Birds flew freely, and the lilies bloomed in vibrant colors. Each day the lake became a symbol of hope and patience for the community. One afternoon, Amir noticed unusual activity at night. A car with dark windows had been circling the lake repeatedly. He recognized the license plate as belonging to someone connected to the HOA. Amir decided to document the car. He took his camera and waited patiently, capturing photographs of the car and its driver. The next morning, he shared the evidence with Nadia, the lawyer. "This proves harassment," she said. "It shows they are trying to intimidate you. It will be very useful in court." Encouraged, Amir continued to improve the lake. He built a small wooden bridge across a narrow stream that fed into the water. He added benches along the shore and even installed a small floating dock for boats. Each addition made the lake more welcoming and more clearly under his care. Despite his efforts, the HOA escalated once more. One morning, 2 men wearing uniforms and fake badges appeared again. They shouted about community property rules and demanded that Amir leave the lake immediately. Amir stayed calm. He showed them his papers and photographs. "You are not real officers. Leave now. You are trespassing." The men hesitated and finally walked away. Amir's patience was paying off. Every false move they made added to his growing file of evidence. The villagers started calling the lake Amir's Lake, though Amir insisted it was everyone's lake. Children brought their fishing rods, families held small picnics, and the air was filled with laughter. The HOA's threats were still there, but the life Amir had brought back to the lake could not be taken away easily. One day, a reporter from the local newspaper visited. She had heard about the conflict and wanted to report the story. Amir showed her the lake, the restored pier, and the thriving wildlife. The reporter took photographs and interviewed the villagers. When the article was published, it told the truth. Amir had legally purchased and restored the lake, and the HOA was trying to claim something that did not belong to them. The article caused a stir in the community. Many people who had supported the HOA began to question their actions. The story made it clear that Amir had done all the work, while the HOA tried to take credit unfairly. Amir realized that truth and patience were his strongest weapons. Each obstacle the HOA put in his way only strengthened his resolve. He worked tirelessly, not just for himself but for everyone who loved the lake and wanted it to remain a place of peace and joy. As summer moved toward autumn, the lake looked more alive than ever. Birds nested in the trees, fish swam in clear water, and the lilies spread across the surface in colorful clusters. The villagers continued to visit, enjoying the lake's beauty and sharing stories about Amir's hard work. Amir stood on the pier one evening looking at the sunset. The golden light danced on the water, and he felt proud of what he had accomplished. The battle with the HOA was far from over, but for the first time he felt the real power of the truth on his side. Amir whispered to himself, "They can send fake officers, build signs, and try to scare people, but the lake will always belong to the one who loves it, the one who restores it, the one who protects it." He knew the HOA would return with new plans, new letters, or new tricks, but Amir was ready. With the villagers supporting him, with legal proof, and with the lake thriving under his care, he had the strength to face whatever came next. Kawan. Lake was alive, and Amir had proven that determination and honesty could overcome even the most determined opponents. Autumn had arrived, and the air around Amir's lake was crisp and fresh. The trees lining the banks were painted in shades of orange, red, and yellow. Leaves floated gently on the water, and the reflection of the sky gave the lake a magical glow. Amir loved this season. It made the lake feel peaceful, even as the struggle with the HOA continued. One morning, Amir noticed fresh tire marks near the entrance. They were too large for a regular car and seemed to have come from a truck. Curious and cautious, he followed the marks toward the edge of the lake. There he found a small group of people attempting to put up a gate. The gate was crude, with sharp edges and uneven wood. It clearly was not built by professionals. Amir walked toward them and called out, "Stop! This is private property." "Who told you to put up this gate?" A man turned, startled. "We were sent by the HOA. They said this area is part of the community." Amir held up his deed. "You are trespassing. I am the owner of this land and this lake. Leave now, or I will involve the real authorities." The group hesitated, whispering among themselves. They seemed unsure. Amir took advantage of the moment. He spoke clearly. "I have documents, witnesses, and photographs proving ownership. This lake is mine. You cannot steal it with lies or fake orders." The men reluctantly left, dragging the gate away. Amir picked up the pieces of wood that had been left behind and stored them in his shed. He could not help but feel a mix of frustration and determination. The HOA was becoming more aggressive, but every act against him also provided more evidence. Later that day, Amir sat down with Nadia, his lawyer. "They are escalating," he said. "Each time they try to scare me or confuse the villagers. I want to make sure we are ready if they take this to court." Nadia nodded. "We are prepared. All of your documents are in order. We have photos of every improvement you made, every tree you planted, and every repair you completed. If this reaches court, there will be no doubt who owns the lake." Amir felt a wave of relief. Still, he knew the fight was far from over. The HOA was organized, and they had resources that he did not. But he also had something stronger: truth and support from the community. A few days later, Amir noticed unusual activity in the evening. Lights from cars moved slowly near the back of the lake. Shadows of people appeared near the trees. Amir called Rafiq and some villagers to help him observe. Using flashlights, they saw a small team from the HOA digging shallow holes near the shore. "They are trying to mark territory," Amir whispered. "We need to document this." He photographed the activity carefully, making sure to capture faces, cars, and the work being done. The HOA was trying to create evidence that the lake was theirs. But Amir's quick thinking ensured every false move was recorded. The next morning, Amir sent the photographs and notes to Nadia. "This will help in court," she said. "It shows harassment and attempts to claim your property falsely. Keep collecting everything." Amir also made sure the lake itself stayed beautiful. He built benches near the pier so visitors could sit and enjoy the view. He planted more flowers, including marigolds and lilies, along the banks. He even set up a small wooden bridge across the narrow stream feeding into the lake. The water became clear, reflecting the sky and trees perfectly. Birds and fish thrived, and the community started calling it the Restored Lake. Then came the day when the HOA sent another letter. This one was larger and more formal, claiming that Amir owed community fees for the lake and demanding immediate payment. Amir smiled sadly as he read it. "Another trick," he muttered. "They keep trying to force me to give up or pay for what is mine." He placed the letter carefully in his folder. Each piece of correspondence, each encounter, each photograph became a chapter in the story of the fight for the lake. Amir began to realize that these records could eventually show a clear pattern of harassment. Amir also decided to involve the villagers more actively. He held small meetings by the pier, explaining the importance of documenting every unusual activity and reporting strangers. The villagers became more alert and careful. Children played safely while adults kept watch, and the lake remained a lively, welcoming place. One day, as Amir was repairing a broken section of the pier, he saw a man standing on the far bank looking through binoculars. Amir's heart raced. He called out firmly, "This is private property. Leave immediately." The man jumped, startled, and ran toward a waiting car. Amir photographed the car's license plate. Nadia later told him, "Every incident strengthens your case. Keep everything. and nothing will be able to claim the lake from you unfairly. Despite the constant harassment, Amir never stopped improving the lake. He built a small floating dock for fishing, cleaned out the water lilies to give them space to grow, and placed birdhouses on the trees. By the end of autumn, the lake looked even better than he had imagined. As evening fell, Amir sat on the pier with a cup of tea. He watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the water in gold and red. The lake was alive and peaceful, a symbol of his hard work and dedication. He thought about the HOA, about their fake officers, their signs, and their letters. They had tried to scare him, confuse him, and steal the lake, but every action had only strengthened his determination. Amir whispered to himself, "They can try to take what is mine, but they cannot take the work, the love, and the life I have given to this lake. Truth will always be stronger than lies." That night, Amir went to sleep with a sense of calm. The HOA had tried many tricks, but he had kept the lake safe. He knew the battle was not over, but he was ready. The lake was his, legally and morally, and he had proof. The villagers continued to support him. Some brought food, others offered to help with repairs, and many just sat by the shore to enjoy the peaceful environment. The lake had become a shared treasure, a place where people felt joy, safety, and pride. As the days passed, Amir felt a new confidence. He had faced fake officers, false claims, harassment, and intimidation. Each challenge had only made him stronger, wiser, and more prepared. The lake had survived the worst of the season, and Amir was determined to see it thrive for many years. Amir knew the HOA would not give up easily. They were clever, persistent, and determined to claim the lake unfairly. But he also knew that as long as he had truth, proof, and the support of the community, their efforts would fail. He looked at the water one last time that evening. The reflection of the trees, the sky, and the pier glimmered in the fading light. The lake was alive, restored, and safe. Amir smiled, knowing that the fight for it was worth every moment of effort, every hour of worry, and every challenge he had faced so far. The battle was far from over, but Amir was ready for whatever the HOA would try next. The lake would remain a place of peace, joy, and life, protected by its true owner and the people who loved it. Winter was approaching, and the air was crisp with frost on the grass. Amir had spent almost a year restoring the lake, and it looked more alive than ever. The water was clear, birds nested in the trees, and the lilies glowed under the winter sun. Despite the cold, children from the village still came to fish and play near the shore, and families brought blankets to sit and enjoy the view. Amir knew the HOA had been silent for a few weeks, but he remained cautious. He checked the fences, the signs, and the entrance daily. Every detail mattered because the HOA had proven they could appear at any time with tricks and threats. He also continued documenting everything. Each photograph, each letter, and each encounter had its place in his growing file. One morning, a black SUV stopped near the lake. Amir's heart raced. A man in a neat suit stepped out. He introduced himself politely as a mediator sent by the HOA. "I am here to discuss the lake," the man said. "The HOA wants to reach an agreement." Amir listened carefully. He kept his voice calm. "I am open to discussion, but the land is mine. I bought it legally and I have restored it." "I will not give it up," the man nodded. "We just want to find a solution. The HOA does not wish to create conflict, but they believe the lake is part of the community." Amir shook his head. "They can believe what they want, but it does not change the facts. This is my property and I have evidence to prove it. If you want a solution, it must respect the law and truth." The mediator left, promising to report Amir's position. Amir felt relief but remained alert. He knew the HOA could return with new plans, but he also felt that the lake had become too important to intimidate or steal. A few days later, Nadia, the lawyer, visited Amir at the lake. "The HOA filed a case," she explained. "But with your documents, photos, and witness statements, we can defend it easily. The court will see that this is your property and that you have restored it responsibly." Amir nodded. He felt confident. He had spent months carefully documenting everything. Every tree, every bench, every repaired section of the pier was proof of his hard work. He realized that the HOA had made a mistake by thinking threats and lies could take the lake from him. The case proceeded in the local courthouse. Nadia presented the deeds, photographs, and letters. She even brought villagers as witnesses. Rafiq spoke about how the lake had been abandoned for years and how Amir had revived it. Other villagers confirmed seeing the HOA's attempts to intimidate Amir. The judge listened carefully, examining every piece of evidence. He asked questions, clarified the deeds, and considered the photographs. The HOA representatives tried to argue that the lake belonged to the community, but their statements were vague and unsupported. Their letters and fake officer attempts only proved harassment, not ownership. Finally, the judge made a decision. After reviewing the evidence, the court confirms that Amir is the legal owner of the lake. Any claim by the HOA is denied. They are warned against harassment or trespassing. Amir felt a wave of relief and happiness. The battle that had caused him months of worry was finally over. The lake, his hard work, and his dreams were safe. The villagers celebrated with Amir. They gathered near the pier, laughing and cheering. Children ran across the grass, skipping over small streams, while adults shared food and stories. Amir smiled, feeling grateful for the support and courage of the people around him. The HOA did not return. Their plans to claim the lake had failed completely. Amir knew they might have been surprised by how united the community was and how much evidence he had collected. Their fake officers, fake letters, and fences had all backfired, making the truth more clear and undeniable. Amir continued improving the lake. He built small pathways for walking, installed benches under trees, and created a small garden near the entrance. He even set up a tiny floating dock for children to use safely. Every addition made the lake more welcoming and beautiful. Birds nested along the banks, fish swam in the clear water, and the lilies spread wide across the surface. The lake had become more than a project. It was a symbol of perseverance, patience, and the triumph of truth. Amir also shared the lake's story with the villagers. "This lake belongs to all of us in spirit," he said. "I own the land, but the joy it brings belongs to everyone. We fought with truth, patience, and unity. That is how we protect what is right." Rafiq nodded. "You have taught us a lesson. Courage and honesty are stronger than threats and lies. This lake will be remembered for years as a place of hope and life." Winter settled more deeply, and the lake reflected the soft white snow on the trees. Amir walked along the shore, noticing how the ducks had returned and how the water sparkled under the cold sun. He felt proud of what he had accomplished. The lake was alive, and it had survived all attempts to claim it unfairly. Amir also knew the lessons were important. He began holding small gatherings for villagers to explain how to protect their own property and rights. He shared stories about documentation, legal procedures, and careful observation. People learned from his experience, and the community grew stronger. Months passed, and the lake continued to thrive. Children fished, families picnicked, and visitors came from neighboring towns to admire the beautiful scenery. Amir remained a humble guardian of the lake, ensuring its care and safety. One bright morning, Amir walked along the pier, feeling the wind on his face. He reflected on the past year, the challenges, the fake officers, the letters, the threats, and the constant worry. Every obstacle had taught him something new. He had learned patience, courage, and the value of truth. The lake was more than a piece of land. It was proof that dedication, honesty, and community support could overcome lies and intimidation. Amir smiled, knowing that all the effort, sweat, and care had been worth it. He looked at the villagers gathered by the shore, their faces bright with joy. Children skipped stones across the water, ducks swam near the lily pads, and birds sang in the trees. Amir felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The lake had become a place of life and happiness, a symbol of resilience. From that day forward, Amir continued caring for the lake. He watched the seasons change, always adding small improvements, always documenting, and always protecting it. The HOA never returned, realizing that their attempts to claim the lake were not only illegal, but also impossible against someone determined and supported by truth. Amir knew that the lake would remain safe for generations. It would be a place where children could play, families could relax, and nature could thrive. And in every reflection on the water, he saw the reward of his patience and courage. Amir whispered softly to the lake, "We have won together. You are alive, and you will always be safe. No one can take what we have built with honesty and care." The lake shined under the winter sun, peaceful and alive, a symbol of victory and resilience. Amir walked back toward the village, knowing that he had not only restored the lake, but had also restored faith in truth, hard work, and community. The fight was over, but the story of the lake would remain in everyone's hearts. Amir had proven that no matter how strong the opposition, Dedication, honesty, and courage could triumph over lies and intimidation. The lake, once abandoned and forgotten, had become a place of life, joy, and hope, and Amir, its true guardian, had made sure it stayed that way forever.